So let's see what's going to happen in game number 2. We have here, ladies and gentlemen, spawning on the bottom right-hand corner of the map as the red Zerg player representing Roar Gaming. He is up 1-0 as it currently stands. It is Jamesykins. And he's going to be going up against the blue Terran player from Team Eli, spawning in the top left-hand corner of the map. Ladies and gentlemen, LemonyTang.
Now, since you haven't played or haven't cast much on this map, let me give you a quick rundown of it, Jorasar. It is pretty big, as I'm sure you can see. That means that it naturally lends itself to being a longer macro game. One of the most interesting features of it is, of course, to the bottom left of Jamesykins' natural is this potential third base, and as one of the new features in the maps of Heart of the Swarm is the Rock Tower. This gives both players the option to take that base quite comfortably, create a wall off there, and it can be a really nice position to hold, especially for Terran players, because you can float a command center down into there, knock out that Rock Tower, and it's very difficult for speedlings to run by and harass you early on. So I'm hoping we'll see LemonyTang go for that economical style opening. Of course, the watchtower placement is really nice as well. You can get a full view of everything going on, and as such, it should be a relatively long game where we get to see a lot of the new units and a lot of the new strategies that these two have been formulating.
Yeah, that should be a lot of fun. I've actually played this map once before, because I believe this map has been added to the map pool in Wings of Liberty as of the previous patch. Correct me if I'm wrong. If it wasn't that map, it was definitely a map very similar to this one. I remember thinking, because I played against a Zerg player, that this map, on Wings of Liberty at least, reminded me a lot of Sandshore Mists, on the grounds that you could, as a Terran player, you could comfortably be out in the middle of the map, potentially pushing towards your opponent. And if you take a look at the way the architecture is laid out on this map, there are approximately 1.5 million counter-attacking routes and different little Zergling run-by routes that a very active and Zerg player who's good at multitasking can really use to just give you the hardest time possible. And that's kind of what I felt in Wings of Liberty. Obviously, here in Heart of the Swarm, with a lot of new units, including the Widow Mine, of course, very, very useful in space control, we're going to limit that sort of advantage just a little bit here. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out a little bit further down the line.
Now, one thing which our observer is pointing out to us, Jorasar, is that there is an SCV hidden in the corner of Jamesykins' main base. Now, I don't know what it's going to be doing.
Yeah,
it could
no
just be there to scout
here,
later. There's no cannon rushes. There's no proxy barracks coming down either. But and of course the Overlord has now seen it. So anything that was planning to do with that SCV is not going to get too much down. I was thinking that potentially was there any risk of a barracks getting chucked down there, but of course with the command center, not going to be the case. Really, LemonyTang is doing the same opening as he did in Game 1, which was to get a quick command center, get the bunker up, play defensive, go into the 2 gas, and as I was saying in Game 1, it's pretty much the same as Wings of Liberty, that you'll get a factory and then the reactor, the difference being that you could go for Widow Mines early. And I don't know if you've had the pleasure, have you had the pleasure of using or playing against Widow Mines yet?
I have sadly not had the pleasure just yet. I've literally come back from 1.5 months away from the game, unfortunately, so I haven't had time to play much at all. What little I did get to play, I caught up with on Wings of Liberty while I was in Sydney, hanging out with TT Pig, which was quite a fun couple of days. But as far as Heart of the Swarm goes, I haven't really had a chance to play around with that much myself just yet.
Widow Mines, to give you the rundown, they are very, very stressful. Now, I'm loving this from Jamesykins. He's going for the super early creep spread by using that nice little trick. So I'm interested to see what he's going to try and play out with this. He's taking his third, and it's interesting he's taking that third. If you look at someone like Idra, he always takes the third north of the natural first in order to secure a very quick 4th base. So I'm be interested to see how this plays out for Jamesykins, but as we can see, meanwhile for LemonyTang, he's happily getting out some Hellions. Yet again, he's getting a starport, and it's just getting a scan off to see what's my opponent doing. So, to be fair, this is a good solid play out of LemonyTang for the moment. He's not trying to switch things up too much.
Okay, one thing I would say about what LemonyTang just did is that I think we just saw LemonyTang put 2 scans down. Now, this is significant because he scanned in the main to see if he could spot any tech, and all he saw, of course, was a spawning pool with no gas. He then scanned once again in the natural, and that was technically a smart move because he managed to spot that the first 2 gases that Jamesykins took were in his natural, so he knows that some tech is on the way, and that's great. But what he could have done is potentially, for example, say, used an SCV or a single marine to try and move into the natural while scanning the main. I feel by using 2 scans, he's going to put himself very, very slightly behind there just because of the sheer number of minerals that would have brought to the party.
I think that would have been a good plan as well. The only thing I see, the reason LemonyTang not doing that is just out of pure concern. After game 1, where he obviously got that roach rush, which did so much damage and arguably lost him the game there, he's just being extra safe, being extra careful. And that's something that I can't blame him for doing in this situation. But as we can see, he's scouted out the 3rd now. He's going to be feeling a lot more comfortable because I'm in my comfort zone right now. I'm getting my Hellions out, I'm getting my Banshee out, and I know the Zerg player isn't trying to kill me yet.
Yeah, I completely agree. It really ties in with that SCV hidden in the main base earlier on in the game, because it looked like LemonyTang was just trying to get a sense of gas timings, if you see what I mean. And then when the SCV went in before any of the gases got taken, and he didn't actually see any, that's sort of when you start getting a little bit anxious. You're not 100% sure what your opponent is doing. You really want to scout them out, and that then prompted the double scan a little bit later on. So now that he's seen the 3rd base, now that he's seen that the tech is the rough timing of that tech and when those gases were taken in the natural, he's going to feel a little bit safer about what he's doing. I completely agree with you.
Now, just as I predicted, we've got, of course, LemonyTang taking his quick 3rd, which is such a safe thing to do on this map. I think it's such a smart move because you're moving out with these Hellions, as we're seeing, running past the creep tumors at the moment. You're taking your map dominant. You've got the Banshee coming into the main base, ready to engage. Of course, Jamesykins, he does have the Spore Crawler down, which unfortunately does deny that. But the Hellions are going to try and poke up into the main. A lot of Queens, though, so they are being still forced back. The 3rd base is potentially very vulnerable, though. There's nothing there, and the rocks are still down. That's going to prevent Jamesykins from getting much of defense in there. The Hellions are committed a lot. Drones are able to escape, and of course, this is a lot of Hellions to go down here, Jorazar.
Yeah, no, this is a great position for those Speedlings to pop. What you want to do is get those Hellions in a confined space, and even though they technically kill Speedlings very quickly, the job of the Speedlings is not to stay alive, it's to keep those Hellions confined. Once they're staying in that space, that's when the Queens have the opportunity to go in and do that extra damage. And as a result there, even though a bunch of drones were killed, we actually have the Banshee cleaning up a couple more right now. LemonyTang must be going away from that wishing he did more, because Jamesykins is still ahead on workers, 53-50 with another round on the way.
Now, the one thing I wish we'd seen LemonyTang do there was he does have his armory complete, which meant that he could have morphed those Hellions into Hellbats behind the mineral line.
Oh, that's
and that
very
would have
true,
that just would have made him so cost effective in that situation. But of course, this is still the beta. Even though I know these two have switched over to Heart of the Swarm near 100% since about November, there's still all these new things that you've just got to get used to the timings. But that's something that anyone watching now, you can think that if you do get the Hellions trapped in that situation, definitely think, can I get Hellbats out? Because that could really allow you to do a lot of damage.
No, that's a great point, especially in a situation where you know your Hellions are countered and it doesn't look like you'll be able to get out of there with them alive. The most cost-effective solution is to morph them into Hellbats at that point. Really, really good point there. And of course, overlooked quite a lot by maybe a lot of people who are watching the stream, even myself, of course, because I still mainly play Wings of Liberty. So that kind of thing is very easily overlooked, even by players who've switched for quite a while.
Now, we are seeing that a scan comes off in the center of the map, just wanting to clear out some of this creep, because at the 12-minute mark, that creep is getting very, very close to your natural and 3rd base as a Terran player. It's not something you want. The Hellions, though, are getting surrounded, Josa. We're seeing that a lot of them do get taken down. The Queen's being used very effectively here. That was quite a big loss for LemonyTang straight away. He's being forced to retreat back, but his first tanks are hitting the field now, and that's a really big milestone for every single Terran player, that once you get those tanks out, you feel a lot more confident in controlling the space and controlling the map.
And I get the feeling now that Jamesykins is just very, very slowly, in a match that would otherwise have been completely equal, slowly pulling a Novak Djokovic here, unfortunately, as he squeezes very, very slightly ahead. And I can see this going quite far in his favor from here. Let me explain why. You saw those Hellions move in, the scan going down, and the creep room is getting taken out in the middle of the map. LemonyTang could have positioned his Hellions in such a way that he could have taken out maybe 12 or 15 creep tumors. As a result, you saw, Mattles, that he basically took out 3 creep tumors before half his Hellions disappeared in a puff of smoke. This is not a cost-effective play right now from LemonyTang. He's trying to do the same thing again out into the middle of the map, but there's so much creep spread right now that I wonder if it's a little bit too little too late in that regard.
Indeed, it may be. Luckily, though, for LemonyTang, he does have 4 Banshees trying to take out the 4th base of Jamesykins. The Queen's transfusing like absolute beasts, though, trying to do as much as they can, and of course the Infestor getting in just in time to hit with a good fungal growth. Of course, 2 of those Banshees do go down. The 4th base was held. The Hellions coming in towards the 3rd, though. And is this going to repeat of the play we saw earlier where he overcommits slightly? Or will he morph those Hellbats in time? Drones are getting taken down, but so many Roaches there.
That's right, the Roaches and Lings successfully doing so much damage, and yes, 29 workers have been killed by LemonyTang at this game, but Jamesykins is still sitting on 70 workers, Maddles. At this point, unless he can do significantly more than 10 or 15 drones worth of damage with these Hellion run-bys, they're just not going to be cost-effective for him in the long run, because the time spent in between those run-bys, Jamesykins is simply continuing to mass a pretty decently sized army. And he has very good map control thanks to that early hatchery cancel creep spread out in the center here. There is nothing LemonyTang's doing at the moment that Jamesykins isn't aware of in advance. I feel LemonyTang's main hope for winning this game at the moment, even though it's far from over, is just patiently sitting back right now and waiting till he gets to about that magic 160, 170 supply worth of mech and trying to do a big push that does a significant amount of damage.
I would agree with you there, Jorsa. I think trying to really get a good amount of mech army up will be his best hope for the time being. But one of the big things that you have to worry about, especially in Heart of the Swarm now, is what if Swarm hosts start hitting? Tanks do an okay job of negating the effect of those wave after locusts. But if they come out in sizable numbers, if they're attacking towards the 3rd and also now the 4th base of LemonyTang, they can really do some damage and start whittling down the army. But to be honest, I don't see Jamesykins going for that because he has already got his Ultralisk Cavern out. He has already got his Spire out, so I'm expecting to see a Greater Spire soon. Broodlords, if you got those, why do you need the ground version of them?
Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty effectively. As much as before the beta was released, we were all hyping completely free infested Terran Locust armies with Broodlings to match. It's not really something we're going to be seeing a lot of here, and we do have another attack coming in at the 3rd base, which does finally kill off a sizable number of drones. That's actually a decent run by there, up to 49 workers killed. But once again, Jamesykins seems to be over-droning to compensate for this in advance, and as a direct result of that, he's still on 70 plus drones. We have an unfortunate situation in the top right of the map now where a lone queen, significantly out of position, attempting to solo take on a planetary fortress. This is actually rather depressing.
That poor queen.
But the Lings!
The Lings do get there just in time. The queen scouted it, but the Lings, they're like, leave it to us. We're gonna clean this up. So LemonyTang losing that base is unfortunate, but it's not a huge problem for him because he's still got 4.
The queen never lived to see the result of her work.
That's a shame.
All she knew is that she tried her hardest and then she died a really painful death. That's actually all she ever knew. That's really sad.
That is.
She went up and she said, I got this. And then very dramatically did it. Pretty unfortunate.
Such a shame. But a statue will be made in her honor, I'm sure. Meanwhile, though, we do have Hellions dropping into the main base, and LemonyTang really showing, yet again, his harassment play is really solid. He's sending Hellions in towards the 4th base of Jamesykins as well, simultaneously getting a lot of damage done. He's now taken out 79 drones this game, and this has, for the first time this match, knocked Jamesykins down below the 60 mark, while LemonyTang is still at a very comfortable 70 SCVs.
Yes, and I want to reiterate a point I was saying earlier. A lot of the early harassment with the Hellions in this game from LemonyTang simply weren't that effective because the number of drones he killed from Jamesykins just didn't make it worth the number of Hellions he had lost. And Jamesykins came out of most of those engagements with 70 plus drones still. However, the last 2 Hellion run-bys from LemonyTang have done more damage, and Jamesykins has been forced to drone a little bit longer than usual. He's been forced to delay his tech just a little bit, and I can't help but feeling if LemonyTang was that effective with his run-bys early in the game, he'd have a big lead right about now. But as it stands, the time for the Hellions, I think, has passed now that Broodlords are on the field.
I completely agree. The one advantage the Hellions do have of the ones still out is if they do morph into Hellbats, they will help deal with the Broodlings a lot more comfortably. And what I'm loving from LemonyTang is he's converting these Thors into high-impact payload, having seen those Broodlords. And as we saw in Game 1, even with a limited number of Thors, LemonyTang was able to do a lot of good damage against the Broodlords very quickly. And now he's got a sizable number of Thors. This could really hold Jamesykins back for quite a while. And behind this, we've got battle cruisers coming out, we've got Ravens coming out.
I'm so excited for this. We have Thor Raven Battle Cruiser as the unit composition of choice coming out here from LemonyTang. Doing a little, well, trying to get some damage done with those Hellions out in the center of the map, but they're just going to be hitting Broodlings for now. Meanwhile, a Banshee just harassing this hatchery over here on the right-hand side of the map, doing a very frustrating amount of damage on the ground to the Spore Coils after relocate, coming in with 3 additional Hellions as well. And this is what I was talking about, being a little bit more cost-effective with the harassment. That's about 6 or 7 drones killed now, heading up to about 10. And not a single Hellion lost so far. So this is really good from LemonyTang. He needs to do more surgical strikes like this. Another one going into the third base, but Jamesykins has had enough. He is moving forward with the Broodlords into the natural expansion.
Indeed he is. He's marching forward, but in come the Thors, of course, with that high-impact payload. You can see how they just eat ever so quickly through the Broods. We've got Seeker missiles being used as well. Big hits going off there. And, well, with the Broodlords dying, with the lack of support on the ground, the Vikings are chasing, the Thors are chasing, even the battle cruiser is chasing down these Broodlords, and the Corruptors are just having to walk away, or fly away at least, because, as we can see, LemonyTang is maxed out, Jamesykins is about 10 supply behind, tracking down those infested Terrans, trying to buy himself a little longer to remax out. He's got a lot of Corruptors ready to deal with this significant air force from the Terran.
Yeah, this is really good. The one thing I would say about LemonyTang at the moment, though, is if you notice, Mattles, in his main base, he has 2 armories, but he's only been researching 1 upgrade at a time, which is a little unfortunate because his Thors are +3 attack at the moment with no armor on them. He could be researching armor for those Thors at the same time he's researching that flyer attack, and literally in the middle of saying that, he appeared to get the message.
Indeed. We saw the same thing in Game 1, though, where he went for the +3 vehicle weapons, but didn't ever get any of the upgrades, for armor, which was a bit unfortunate. I don't know if it's stylistic, he normally only goes for single upgrades, but as we're seeing, the Hellions are still being irritating, but LemonyTang, he's moving across, he's comfortable with the size of army he's got. He thinks he's got the composition that can defeat Broodlord Infestor, and there's only 3 Broodlords on the field.
And this is like a Warcraft 3 army. I'm picturing the battle cruiser as his hero at the moment, with Yamato Cannon as his ultimate. He could totally march his army across the map right now and do significant amounts of damage. Still continuing with the small levels of Hellion harass. He's up to 113 workers killed this game, and Jamesykins is down below 60 drones. So, just continuously keeping up. Not the most cost-effective early on in the game, but LemonyTang has not let that slip one bit. And as it currently stands, he's now mining 50% more than Jamesykins is, and that is a significant advantage when his standing army is still this powerful.
Indeed it is. And of course, those Hellions, even though they haven't been as cost-effective as he may have wanted throughout the game, he's getting more cost-effective with them, and at the same time as well, he's got 4,000 minerals in the bank. When you've got that much money in the bank, you can throw Hellions at your opponent all day, all night, because if they kill anything, when you've got that much of a bank, you don't really mind. You're maxed out, you can kill as much as you can, try and stop that Zerg being able to remax quickly, and that's the problem for Jamesykins at the moment. The one bad engagement could really cost him this game, but he's going to go for it. The fungal growth hits a lot of Vikings and Ravens, some infested Terrans going down, and Jorasar, do you think Jamesykins is right pulling back right now?
Oh my goodness, and all of those Vikings, that was a real money fungal there from Jamesykins. I think he pulled back, at least temporarily, at the right time. We saw 3 Seeker missiles going into the ground there, but the fact is there are still so many Thors behind this army that Jamesykins can't just afford to 1A his way through here, just in case the Broodlords do get overwhelmed. As it stands, though, until LemonyTang remakes his Vikings, he probably doesn't want to risk running into this army, and I think that's a sensible play from both players.
I think it's very good. I mean, as we're seeing here, LemonyTang, he did lose a couple of Thors there, just in the retreat, but His bank is looking pretty comfortable. He needs some more gas. He's trying to take this base at the very top of the map. But unfortunately, there are 2 burrow zerglings there. And the Broodlords are going to try and go for this. The Corruptors attempting to knock out that battle cruiser, but indeed a hero unit it seems to be.
Oh, there goes the hero, man. That's the game.
I was like, it's going to survive, it's going to do it, and then no. One more volley, went back to kill it off, but as we're seeing, the Vikings are getting taken out. Now, the Broodlords are in an amazing position to deal with this, and even though the Seeker missiles are starting to connect, so many Ravens getting hit by those fungals right there, Jorasar. It's looking pretty painful for the Terran, who's trying to hold as best he can.
And I get the feeling that LemonyTang, just as recently as 4 or 5 minutes ago, had a really solid advantage in this game. But I think the highlight of what happened, for me, is the moment we saw all the Vikings getting taken out by those fungal growths. The infestor usage from Jamesykins here. He knew exactly which units he needed to take out. He needed to get rid of the Vikings, and he needed to get rid of the Ravens, and hopefully the Thors would go down themselves to the Broodlords, and that's exactly what he's aimed to do here. The Vikings just completely obliterated off the map, and that's allowed Jamesykins to get in this position. LemonyTang should win this engagement, I think, but it's going to be pretty close.
It is going to be close, and as we can see, Jamesykins using Transfuse incredibly effectively throughout this entire series so far, just trying to get as much out of those Broodlords as he can. But as we can see now, some Vikings are out. In terms of the resources lost this game, it's actually incredibly similar. There's only 1,000 resources difference between these two, both sitting at just around 27,000 resources lost throughout the game. So when we factor in the economy that has arguably been pretty similar as well throughout, this is still very level pegging in my opinion.
Let's take a look at what just happened, because I feel it's good to recap, especially for the viewers, what's happened in the last couple of minutes. First of all, LemonyTang, especially with that mech army he had previously, I think had a sizable lead over Jamesykins. I also want to say, I can't say for sure, but my guess is that if Jamesykins hadn't landed those money fungals on the Vikings and the Ravens, then LemonyTang would have been able to completely steamroller him with that army. That's what I thought before the engagement started. And once the engagement actually completed, yes, LemonyTang held on effectively by the skin of his teeth here with a couple of Thors in the end, but his lead in this game has been cut down to size. So even though he's still enjoying a 20 supply advantage at the moment, the game is a lot less clear now than it was 4 or 5 minutes ago.
I 100% agree with you, Jorasar. The one thing which I'm noticing going on is that the Hellions are still harassing. They are still going down there. There's now 137 drones have been killed this game by LemonyTang. And
over or under 160, go.
What?
Over or under 160. If you were a betting man. Under?
Yeah.
Ooh, dangerous. It only takes 2 more run-bys, man, and then it'll be 160.
No, I reckon it's going to be under this game. It's going to be close, though. It's definitely going to be close. But the one thing I'm loving seeing now is LemonyTang has actually morphed some Hellbats, Jorasar. And the reason this is so important is because arguably the one thing that stops these Thors being super against the Broodlords is just the Broodlings. The Hellbats negate their effectiveness, allowing the Thors to stay up longer, deal more damage, and with the Viking support as well, Jamesykins' large commitment to air may be a slight problem. And we'll wait to see when the engagement goes down. Of course, Infested is still very good. Infested Terran usage and Fungal has been good for Jamesykins so far, but they're both trying to get in a good position. But the Hellbat's running into this bottom base, Jorasar, and we can see the Spinecrawler's not doing an amazing job.
145 and counting. Are you sweating yet, Maddles? Because we're getting dangerously close here to 160. We have gone up to 147, and the Hellbats are being morphed back into Hellions, so you can make a hasty exit and possibly go towards a third base that conveniently has enough drones for him to potentially make it up to 160. Let's see if this is going to happen right here, right now. A scan going down. The drone's trying to get burrowed, but that is not going to be an adequate defense on this occasion. A roach popping out and randomly deciding to run. 156 workers killed.
I've got 4 to go. It's getting close.
This is ridiculous.
And the Hellions are coming in yet again. Oh.
157, man. You're hanging on barely, my friend.
Come on, LemonyTang. Come on. You don't need to kill any more drones. It's fine. You can just go kill him. And of course he could at this stage because there's only 9 Broodlords out and 17 Vikings. They are gonna, with the Thors as well, those Broodlords are gonna die so quickly. And then there's just an awful lot of Corruptors and really the Infestors. There's not much else on the field. So with that, I'd say LemonyTang is in a nice position. He's getting the +3 ship weapon upgrades as well. He does have the 3-2 vehicle upgrades as well. So with that, the upgrade advantage LemonyTang, rather Jamesykins had earlier in the game is definitely starting to disappear.
Oh yeah, LemonyTang is 3-2 on his ground forces on his mech, and he's 2-2 with +3 incoming, like you mentioned, on his air as well. And don't forget what we were talking about at the start of the game as Jamesykins now moving in to try and take out this planetary fortress in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. LemonyTang's army is significantly more mobile than Jamesykins right now, which is a big problem considering how big the map is. Counterattacks are going to work significantly better for LemonyTang. What Jamesykins has going for him, though, is that you don't really want to splinter off small numbers of units to a huge army. Oh, huge fungal growth on the Ravens. Hold that thought.
That fungal growth was absolutely incredible. The infested Terrans underneath it are going to be able to knock them all out, aside from the few. There was only 4 that managed to get away. That was absolutely massive. Good use of the point defense drone, just trying to negate the effect of these corruptors a little bit. And we can see the Vikings doing some good damage. Seeking missiles connecting very effectively, but the story of this game for Jamesykins has been money fungals.
It really has. I mean, that money fungal on the Ravens was huge, and earlier on the Vikings prevented LemonyTang from steamrolling him, and all of a sudden Jamesykins in about a 20 supply lead with a lot of infested Terrans on the front line dealing so much damage. Another great fungal on the Vikings, but has LemonyTang simply got too much? There are only infestors left from Jamesykins. He's been incredibly cost effective with them, but he needs the ground army behind them to support, and the most he can hope for at the moment is maybe taking out this planetary, but with SCVs left there to repair, it doesn't look like he can get the job done. He needs to keep these infestors alive.
Indeed he does. He's trying to get them back, but Hellions are coming through. They're trying to do some damage. The Vikings have picked off the remaining corruptors. Some good transfuses coming down from Jamesykins. Of course, when you are very low on gas, you need to make sure that all of your units get absolute maximum effect. The Hellions have gone by for another run by, and Jorasar,
you owe me a drink.
I ask you not to look at the number of workers killed.
I will happily take that drink at I-48. No problems whatsoever. We now have it. This has been yes, some people in chat might be going, well, this is an incredibly scrappy game. You know what I say? This has been an incredibly entertaining game. Very back and forth between these two players. Of course, this is the challenger map leading up to Baby Night versus Morrow, while some of the allowing us to showcase some of the UK StarCraft talent around here. And maybe this hasn't been quite up to the level that we would typically see from pro players, but my goodness, have they come and provided the entertainment here today. Another couple of money fungals, but not enough to chain them up. A lot of these Vikings on orange and red health, but they do survive for the moment. And it looks like if Jamesykins just makes more units and allows this base to go down, he might be able to rally back and kill off this air army.
I think that's what he needs to do. He needs to basically bide his time, try and get some more units out, but he's pushing forward with those corruptors. And now, as we see, a huge number of Vikings there are able to do some good damage. We've also got the repairs coming out from the SCVs, really helping make this very cost-effective for LemonyTang, and Jamesykins being pulled back. And have you noticed that he has no infestors on the field right now? Jamesykins lost all of them, and he does not have any gas pretty much. He has 150 gas. He can make 1 infestor. That is never a good position to be in. And of course, LemonyTang, he's now securing this base to the very left of the map. He's got that gas coming in. Admittedly, both of these players are very broke right now.
Yeah,
but this is really late game situation.
I love this transition from LemonyTang getting more siege tanks out on the field as well. I feel that's really important because he's recognized that this is not a time where Jamesykins is going to be continuously making more air units. He wants to revert to a more conventional kind of almost Wings of Liberty-esque army composition right now, because frankly the players are too broke to invest too much gas in anything fancy right now. And I think this might be the deciding battle of the game. A command center getting morphed into a planetary fortress right here. There is a solitary broodlord, the hero of Jamesykins' army. LemonyTang scanning ahead, seeing exactly what's there. He is not afraid of it. A couple of turrets going up as well. These Vikings ready for action. Would like to see a little bit of a repair on them since he has some money available, but no matter. He's up 121 supply to 101, and Jamesykins looks now to be increasingly backed into a corner.
He does indeed. The one thing I'm hoping LemonyTang keeps up, Jorasar, are these point defense drones. He's slightly behind in the Viking count compared to the Corruptors by 1. but those point defense drones will definitely swing things into his favor. And then once he's knocked out those Corruptors, the Brutal will die near instantly to 9 Vikings. And of course, then there's pretty much nothing on the ground. There's 8 Roaches and 19 Zerglings. That is all Jamesykins has apart from those Air Forces. And as a result, Jamesykins can just start moving forward. The scan goes off, trying to get a good look. What has my opponent got? Can I engage it? But I think they're both doing the right thing by biding their time.
Yeah, we just need to see... In fact, I wouldn't mind seeing him... All he needs to do is push forward with an additional 1 or 2 point defense drones right now. He doesn't quite have enough for another one with the Raven or this army, but there are 3 on the field, so I wonder where the other 2 are. Maybe just out of my vision somewhere. I'd like to see him just push forward and plonk one down. There we go. The other Raven behind does have enough for a PDD now. So as long as he puts a PDD right on top of the hatchery, for example, and pushes forwards with the Vikings, I feel Jamesykins has to pull back.
Jorusa, Hellions are still harassing. At the top right base of Jamesykins, they have come in, they've knocked a couple more drones out. This is really good. And I know you were looking for those Ravens. One appears to have got forgotten outside the natural of LemonyTang, but as we see, these Corruptors and Brutals are trying their best to hold on, trying to make sure that they keep this base up, because this base is so critical to Jamesykins right now. Even though it's not mining much, he's only got one other mining base, which is the top right, where Hellions have just run in and killed an awful lot of drones. So we see now Hellions coming in towards the third, and LemonyTang has just been harassing constantly, hasn't he, Jorusa?
All right, Maddles, and everyone in chat, get your betting fingers ready. Over or under 200, considering we're currently at 179. Go.
It can't go over 200.
That's what we'd like to think.
It can't be more than 9,000.
If we see 200 drones killed in a single game, I think I will actually blow my mind. But this... The way this game is going so far, the way these two players are back and forth. Don't forget, guys, we're at the 44-minute mark of this game number 2 here, and the players are 108 versus 111 supply. Yes, there are differences in what the situation is looking like on the ground, depending on which part of the map you're looking at right now, but oh my god, has this been a slugfest. What it's going to come down to towards the end of the game is who is still mining. And right now, LemonyTang is doing a better job of it. But, ooh, the mules! If you count those as 5 workers each, that's going to be pain.
That is a lot of pain. This entire base is in pain with the speedlings running in. And of course, this is forcing LemonyTang to pull a lot of his army up to try and defend it, which is giving space for these Brutals, which... I'm surprised the Brutals didn't just go for the base on the left, because there was nothing defending it, and he could have just happily walked up there and done some good damage. So maybe a misstep there by Jamesykins, but again, there's only 4 Broodlords out right now. It's not a big force on either side, and they've both just got to be stiff right now. You've got to mine carefully. The gas is the real stumbling block for both these players right now, but I've got to say, I think LemonyTang has the better army right now.
This is so unbelievably cagey. If you take a quick look at the views of both of these players, neither of them really see what's going on in the other half of the map. Not only has it been really scrappy, but everyone is just playing slightly more conservatively at the moment because they're not sure from what direction a counterattack is likely to come in next. And this is providing great viewing for us, of course, but this must be excruciatingly nervous for the players.
Indeed it is. I know both of these two players were nervous coming into this series. It's a big stage for them. They've played each other quite a lot, generally, of course, being in the UK scene. But when you've got money on the line, when you've got honor on the line, you're going to be a little bit stressed. And of course, a game like this, where it has gone on for so long, you're going to be worried. And it's so difficult when you're in this situation, when you have so few resources. You're fighting over 1 or 2 mining bases, and you can't really switch it up. And of course, that's more painful for Jamesykins, because if he could switch up his army composition all of a sudden, I mean, if he went for something like, if he could get some swarm hosts out, it'd be really good. If he could just do something like that, it might be a good spot for him, but he just doesn't have the gas for it at all.
The little drone that could in the top right-hand corner of the map. You're right, neither side is really mining too much gas at the moment, both sitting at about 200 a minute. The game is going to come down to, I feel, who is going to be able to take the next mining base. We see LemonyTang with the orbital command that he desperately needs to land in the top right there, but crucially, his planetary fortress in the bottom left of the map is preventing Jamesykins from retaking that bottom left base, which still has quite a lot of minerals on it, Maddles. And, I mean, we've got Jamesykins with that top right base, mining a fair bit at the moment, but at the same time, LemonyTang is, well, was long distance mining and now just properly mining this sort of 1 o'clock base, if you will. So both of them are on one full mining base. LemonyTang has a second in the bottom left, which is giving him an edge. Jamesykins just needs to get the second one up and running. And a couple of Broodlords against that planetary fortress in the bottom left would be very useful for him right now.
They would have been, if you recall earlier in the game, where we saw that big Ling roach push up to the very top right base for LemonyTang. The Broodlords came up there as well. If they pushed into the left and knocked out that planetary fortress in the lower left of LemonyTang, that could have really swung things into Jamesykins' favour. But now we see the Broodlords trying to position themselves over the dead space in order to attack this base, and that is a very nice position for the Broodlords to be in.
Oh, and we have once again so many Vikings here, and there are a couple of Infestors out for Jamesykins with a healthy amount of energy as well, but they're walking straight into the middle of that scan, basically telling his Terran opponent, you can try, but I will fungal you half to death. And he's done that very, very well so far this game, but he does only have 3 of them to spare. As long as LemonyTang can come out and snipe off these Infestors, I feel there's no real wiggle room here for Jamesykins to push through.
It's very tense, Jarosar. I know I'm feeling tense for these two players. I cannot imagine what they're feeling like right now, because it's one of those situations where in Wings of Liberty we often see that kind of death ball v death ball at the 20-minute mark, but we're at 50 minutes. They're both pretty much mined out bar like 1 mining base each. It's really, really tough for them. And still we see though, LemonyTang is being the harassing player. He's pushing the dodge. But look at this, a big roach Ling push coming to the low left, and this is exactly what Jamesykins needs to do. He's going to knock this planetary out. The next one, already SCVs have been pulled to hold it, trying their best. And will LemonyTang try and defend, or will he just push into the top right base? He's got the scan. I think he's going to go for the base trade, potentially.
Jamesykins needs that bottom left base, and I'm really happy he took out that planetary. I want to see a hatchery get put down there almost instantly, but almost as importantly here, I feel he really shouldn't let LemonyTang's 4 o'clock base go unchecked. That base has been happily mining as a planetary fortress for so long now, without too much in the way of harassment, and a run by like Jamesykins just did at that planetary in the middle of nowhere right now would have probably taken that out, and that would actually reduce LemonyTang's income by about 50%. As it stands, he's very slowly getting a supply lead here.
He is. That it may not seem like a big supply lead, but when we actually look at the army supply, LemonyTang's sitting there at a good 15 army supply, but he's got a lot more SCVs. His income is looking a lot more comfortable. He's got nearly double the gas income of the Zerg in this situation. And of course, at this real late game stage, past the 50-minute mark, you need that gas in order to get out your army. And I think that is what's tipping things slightly in the Terran's favor right now.
And interestingly, Maddles, on those roaches and the queens, exactly +0 in terms of attack upgrades. So we haven't really seen anything going into the second half of this game from Jamesykins as far as those upgrades are concerned, but LemonyTang, of course, being fairly diligent throughout, and it looks like he's going to be moving in towards the top right base. A couple of Broodlords here going to try and defend. The Corruptors might do a half-decent job against the first few Vikings, but look at how many there are behind. We need those 3 Infestors. We need those fungal growths right the heck now, but they are nowhere to be seen. Oh no, they are still on the map, but definitely completely out of position. And we have Seeker missiles going off against 2 of the 3 Infestors. They get blown sky high, and all of a sudden Jamesykins is looking very, very difficult indeed.
I think that there could actually have decided this game. It's going to be so difficult for Jamesykins to come back into this. He lost the Broodlords, he lost the Corruptors, and he has under 100 gas in the bank right now. Meanwhile, all but 1 of the 22 Vikings survived. That is just an incredibly good spot. The Infestors have gone down, and I mean, a good fungal could have helped, but as we're seeing, the push coming in now from LemonyTang. He's moving forward. He's got the Hellbats there ready to soak up some more damage. He's got the Seeker missiles going off. Jamesykins trying to come in with the last few remaining roaches. That fungal growth was great, but is he going to be able to do it? He's forcing him back. This is a brilliant defense by Jamesykins. I can't believe he actually managed that.
2 money fungals from that lone Infestor, but unfortunately the base in the bottom left has just been taken out as well. And Maddles, 197.
It's getting close. It's 190.
200!
Now.
There we go! 200 drone killed in a single game of StarCraft. I have cast a fair number of games in my career, and I can comfortably say I have never seen that happen before. This has been an absolute war of attrition between these two players, but now LemonyTang with an 80 supply lead. That really, really good engagement in the top right, not allowing those fungal growths to come. Those 2 Seeker missiles on the 2 Infestors were so key. We've seen how good Jamesykins' Infestor control has been all game long. And this time around, LemonyTang has shut it down in a position where he didn't have the gas to remake the Infestors, and that is going to make all the difference.
It is, and now there's a good multi-prong harassment coming down here from LemonyTang. He's marching a large force of Hellbats and Siege Tanks into the natural base. He's getting in a good position, and of course, there's nothing Jamesykins can do but pull back to defend, but that is leaving that top right base very much open, very much undefended for the remainder of the Terran army to push in and take it out. So I think this could be all she wrote for this game, because LemonyTang, he's sieged up in a nice spot. He's about to take out the final mining base of Jamesykins, and then it's just a matter of time. 110 supply lead for the Terran right now. But yet again, a money fungal comes off, and there are so many queens here. Jamesykins is really fighting for his life right now.
Yeah, we are slow. This game is very slowly morphing into a Fun Day Monday. We're getting mass queen action going up here in the top right-hand corner. Unfortunately, 90% of Jamesykins' pop at the moment, his supply is invested in these queens, and as a result, he's going to go down to below 20 in just a moment. LemonyTang still at 170 supply. Number of workers killed, ladies and gentlemen, is up to 212. GG. Well played. 212 is going to be the number we end the game with. Maddles, I will take both of those drinks. Thank you very much. What a series we have on the cards.